Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
From the land of 10,000 lakes, this is Red Herring Radio. Good evening, everyone. I am Rick the Ninja, joined in studio by Wally, Danger, Walberg, the Natrix, and once again, Just-Levi. Here's your host, B-Dizzle.
Thank you, Ninja. And thank you, everyone, for joining us again on Red Herring Radio.
You're welcome.
We are back after a little break. We were supposed to be back after 2 weeks. We took an extra week because I had things to do.
Gonna justify anything to anybody.
Well, yeah, I don't really have to, but, you know, people who do listen to the show regularly, you know, and I say 2 weeks we'll be back and we don't come back.
Should have some integrity about it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, maybe we gotta justify it to...
Well, I don't think I'm gonna say that anymore unless I mean to actually do it. So
that's not the first time that we've been like, we'll see you in a week, and it's like 2 weeks later.
Right.
So,
well, I
promise to have more integrity from now on about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying what we will do, doing what we say.
Right. So before we get into things here, I'm going to go around the room and say hi to everyone like I normally do. And first and foremost, I'm turning to Danger. Danger, how you doing, pal?
You know, it's the huge. I feel like we've been talking about the Magic tournament a little bit during this segment or this part of the show. And I got to check in with you guys. I am not ashamed to report that I did terribly and got about 105th place out of over 200 people.
Did you learn, at least from this experience? Did you take something away from it to make you a better Magic player?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into specifics about like exactly what I learned.
Well, not specifics, but as long as you learned something.
And it was very enjoyable and I had a good time. Yeah, it was awesome. So my friend Anthony did win the tournament, though. Okay, get this. My friend Anthony won the tournament, took the whole thing down, did awesome. I have beaten Anthony at Magic before through the transitive properties. I could have won this tournament. It just wasn't my day.
Gonna turn to Ninja. Ninja, how you doing, pal?
Oh, I'm doing swell. Yeah, exciting things. Started a new job, fixing stuff. Super exciting, you know.
How are your cats?
They are aggressively cuddly, as you know, by the appearance of my clothes.
Yeah, looks that way.
All right, Ninja, thanks, bud. Just-Levi, thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing, pal?
I've been working on my voice lately. It's been really nice. Does it sound sexier?
Levi, I have told you many times, I think you have one of the coolest voices ever, and I think you could do, like, movie things.
In a world where only one man is left to survive, no one else was there to see him.
All right, good enough. And last but not least, now we're going to say hi to Natrix. Natrix, how you doing tonight?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I haven't been over your house since you moved in.
Yeah, for the red herring audience out there, I just want everyone to know that when we say studio, we mean my house.
That's the studio.
It'll be all right, though. We hang a couple of sheets up inside of here to make believe they're walls. It'll be fucking amazing.
All All right, so now we're going to kick it back over to Ninja. Ninja, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, now everyone's heard of the UFOs, but what about USOs? Tonight we will be discussing the phenomenon of unidentified submerged objects. Also on deck, 3D printing and how it could change the future. We'll also be putting the spotlight on the late, great Bill Hicks. All this tonight with 5 minutes with Just-Levi and a little bit of dangerous philosophy tonight on Red Herring Radio. That's Red Herring Radio, brought to you by City Water. City Water, now 88% more thirst quenching.
All right, so before we get into any of that stuff, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Rosetta probe. It had a lander land on the surface of this comet, 67P. We are on ctvnews.ca.
Europe's Rosetta spacecraft has discovered something surprising about the comet it's orbiting. It makes an eerie noise. The European Space Agency robots instruments have detected a low-frequency, irregular sound emitted by oscillations in the comet's magnetic field. Researchers have boosted the sound within human hearing range and are calling it a song. The comet's song can be heard in a clip posted online.
Okay, yeah, so the sound you're hearing here is apparently caused by oscillations within the magnetic field of the comet.
Or it's an alien, like, clicking its throat-killing mechanism of doom, like...
Maybe,
some
maybe.
murderous thing like that.
It does sound like a space cricket.
Yeah.
You guys can hear it, right? Space cricket?
A killer space cricket.
It sounds like a horrifying alien in a large chamber. Like, as if it's a space cricket, there's definitely an echo and a wind to it. It's eerie and magical in a way.
I kind of want to use this, like, as my alarm to wake up in the morning. Just scare me out of bed.
Or what if that was like the white noise you went to sleep to? Well, how would that affect your dreams? It could be wild.
Well, I would have never imagined a comet to produce a sound like that, let alone any sound. I wouldn't have had guessed that a comet had enough atmosphere to actually produce a sound. They did say it was an oscillation within the magnetic field of the comet, so I don't know if it's actually a sound as in we know sound, like a vibration traveling through gases in an atmosphere. It obviously was a wave that was detected, but was it a sound as we know a sound? I don't...
According to the article, it says that the comet's song is being sung at 40 to 50 millihertz, well below the threshold of human hearing. So they've obviously altered it in a way and like put it through some sort of process so that we are able to hear it. So while we are hearing like this weird, strange sound, it seems to me to be true that it's not the actual sound because we couldn't hear the actual sound. So it's kind of cool and is mysterious and interesting, but at the same time, we still don't really know what it actually sounds like. You know?
I wonder, since you can't hear it, but it's still creating a pulse, if you were to be standing on it, if you could feel it, like a vibration, like when you're riding the lawnmower for forever, and you just part of the lawnmower.
All right, so start things off here. We're going to be looking at some 3D printing and how that is going to affect the future. Now, they already have 3D printers that can print metal. They have 3D printers that can print food. They have 3D printers that can print hard plastics. This is going to revolutionize the world because it changes the dynamic of a society. When you have to get in your car and go to a store and find a product that you're looking for and pay somebody for it and have that whole, exchange, that's a lot of things going on. 3D printing is going to change all that because you don't have to go down to a hardware store to buy a wrench. You can go over to your 3D printer and pull up blueprint for a wrench, and you hit enter, and it prints you a wrench, and there you go. You don't have to go to the store.
The interesting thing that I'm thinking about the point that you were making is these devices, as much as it does kind of lead toward the idea of the replicator technology, these devices still need materials to print with. So you still actually technically have to go to the store to buy your iron to make the wrench with. So, technically, but what it does do is it greatly reduces the amount of middlemen between product and consumer because there only needs to be a manufacturer of these raw materials as supplies, and then you don't need to all the other crap.
Just thinking about how much printer ink costs, I could only imagine how much these sort of materials would cost. They arm and a leg for printer ink, man. So, like, imagine what 3D printer wrench making materials will cost.
All right, we're looking at hbr.org here, and it's an article talking about 3D printing and how it will change the world.
Another implication is that goods will be infinitely more customized because altering them won't require retooling, only tweaking the instructions in the software. Creativity in meeting individuals' needs will come to the fore, just as quality control did in the age of rolling out sameness. So obviously the point that they're making here is that it used to be that a huge factory assembly line would be created to specifically make one product over and over again, whereas now with 3D printing, you can make all these different products with very little difficulty in transitioning from making one thing to another thing, or even a slightly different version of the thing you just made. You can do that over and over again. So again, yeah, there's a lot of possibility here. It seems like a good thing for consumers, but this idea will be expressed through the same capitalist means that all ideas come through, and so there's going to be funding that happens for it, and we're a ways away from it being a huge mainstream thing, but it does have a lot of potential.
Like, there does offer one great thing, and I'm just being a little optimistic here. If it does begin to take off, the amount of resources that we'll be able to take out of the raw manufacturing and production of non-food materials, or even the processing of food to make, the 3D printer we got links for that to show people who might not know anything about that. It frees up mankind's labor and efforts for artistic, creative, and intellectual pursuits, which is ultimately, the goal for humanity is to become a species that can pursue creative and intellectual pursuits as opposed to survival.
I like that idea.
Can you imagine how many inappropriate things are going to be made with this 3D printer? Like, in all honesty, there's going to be
so many butt plugs. Yeah, so many
dillies,
butt plugs.
Like, this strange, bizarre stuff, like over-the-top handcuffs and the stuff that reaches around your back and straps you and the little stuff, and you swing from the top of the ceiling, and you find the joists.
You got issues, Levi.
No, I have solutions.
We're going to have linked in the description below a link for a video talking about some 3D printers they're designing for the potential Mars missions, because those missions are very long and you don't want to necessarily pack a variety of different foods. It would be better to be able to pack a cartridge of like protein and a cartridge of, vegetable paste and be able to print different foods, to give the astronauts a variety of different flavors while they're making their 5-year journey to Mars.
Yeah, think the Matrix, except a little less disgusting.
It's got all the aminos and proteins a body needs.
So we'll have that linked in the description below. All right, so now we're looking at the website thenextweb.com, and it's talking a little bit about 3D printing here too.
Initiated in January 2012, French model maker and sculptor Gaël Langevin created InMove, the first life-size humanoid robot you can 3D print and animate. Replicable on any home 3D printer with a 12 by 12 by 12 centimeter area, it is conceived as a development platform for universities, laboratories, hobbyists, and first of all, for makers. Earlier this year, Intel launched Jimmy, a friendly walking robot that Intel is designing for consumers. Intel describes Jimmy as a research robot, but a less sophisticated version of the adorable droid will go on sale later this year for $1,600.
I think it's safe to say that 3D printing, even though it's still really in its infancy, it's going to change the world. It's going to change the world completely because
you could print your date, like what you're doing later. Oh, I'm going to print me up a robot. We're going to have some fun.
Yes, you can have some fun with your sex robot, Levi, while the rest of us are revolutionizing the manufacturing capability of the human race.
Burn!
Well, just because he wants to spend all of his time learning and I want to try to propagate with a robot doesn't mean anything.
Oh, man. All right. So I think it's just neat, it goes without saying that 3D printing is it's going to be the future of everything. It's going to end up being that almost everything will someday be 3D printed. The age of machining is coming to an end, and the age of 3D printing is dawning.
Perhaps it's so weird to me to believe that something like a pair of jeans could more easily come out of this multi-ability type printer than it is for, them to be created in the current means. It just is hard to see. But to have like custom made jeans that like fit you exactly and perfectly, like thinking of the implications for clothing, could have some
implications for literally everything.
It changes everything, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's something everybody should be thinking about and considering how that is going to affect their future lives.
One thing that I saw recently that was 3D printed was Dungeons and Dragons gaming miniature for like a tabletop RPG. Somebody had printed a kraken in the sea, and it had like all these different tentacles and stuff coming out on the board, and it was a pretty neat thing that is being done right now with 3D printers.
And that's important to note. Like right now, our 3D printing technology is limited to pretty much
plastic,
solid pieces. And they're pretty sizable. Like we can't shrink our machines down. It's all about, as we get more advanced and we can scale our technology down. You're talking about making jeans. When we can make the little micro robot nanobots that size to put together materials at the molecular level, oh yeah, they will be able to totally make us any kind of fabric and jeans and mechanical moving parts and all kinds of jazz. But yeah, right now we're limited to dice and cup holders and other simple stuff.
But then even you can go beyond 3D printing, and there is a thing called 4D printing that is on the horizon.
What?
Yes, and we're not going to really get into that right now. That just shows that technology and our ability to invent is truly one of the most remarkable things about our species. It never ceases to amaze me, the things that we create.
Yes, mankind's greatest ability is our ability to pass our knowledge to each other. It allows us to communicatively gain knowledge. It's responsible for all of our greatness, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, and I'm probably butchering the quote, but I'm pretty sure it was Stephen Hawking who said something about, like, if I have seen anything at all, it is only by standing on the shoulders of giants, which I think alludes to what you're getting at. Somebody in the comments on this website made a really good point that we wanted to touch on, pretty much that if you were to compare the revolution of 3D printing to the revolution of computers, it took about 40 years to go from the computers of the 50s to the computers of the 90s, which are like those beige boxes that we imagine that people don't really even have anymore. So 3D printing started in the 80s but has roots in the 70s. So if we kind of do the math on that and were to say that it would follow a similar timeline, it would be about 2010-ish before there would be the equivalent of those computers that we don't have anymore. So before we get to the point of iPods and things like that, it wouldn't be until 2020 or later. So that's kind of what we're looking at on this kind of stuff. But 2030 before we have really sophisticated 3D printing seems like a reasonable estimate. So start holding your breath, everybody.
Yeah, 3D printing. It is the future.
It'll make me some new organs when I'm older. I need a new copy of my liver.
That seriously does not seem so far-fetched, honestly. Is that really that crazy?
No,
I don't know.
It's not at all. They, like I said, they are going to 3D print literally everything. They are going to be able to 3D print body parts. They are going to be able to 3D print literally everything. I was not trying to exaggerate when I said that earlier. They are going to be able to 3D print. They can 3D print pieces and you can make a working gun by 3D printing materials. You can make
yeah, and there's the huge joke. You wouldn't download a car, would you? Now you can.
You can. Somebody has built an entire car out of 3D printed parts. It has been done. You remember
the commercials?
Yeah, I do. That's for piracy.
Yep.
I would like to say yes, I would absolutely download a car and build it.
Now you can.
I will work honestly, without fear or favor.
Just look into it a little yourself, and you will see that sometime in the near future, though it seems like something, out there a little bit, and it's a new technology, there was a time in the past here in the world where, 1 out of like every 1,000 people had a cell phone, and you saw somebody walking down the street with their big gray cell phone, and you're like, wow, I'll never have one of those. Now, everybody in the world today probably has a cell phone. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody, but
Except for those people who don't.
It's very strange now to find someone who doesn't have one.
right.
I judge them.
You guys don't hang out with enough kids. Like kids, there's there's a surprisingly young kids that do have cell phones, but there's a lot of kids that don't have cell phones.
Yeah. All right. So from that, I think we're going to turn to Danger for a little dangerous philosophy. What do you got for us this week, Danger?
Oh man, I didn't know. I'm all right. I didn't know we were turning here, but here we are. And so, getting dangerous, all the danger. So the past couple weeks we talked about just some ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I recall them being dangerous. They were dangerous ideas.
Sorry, guys.
Do you know what you're doing?
I don't exactly.
Listen, buddy, I'm in a hurry here.
Okay. Today on Dangerous Philosophy, we're going to be getting into a couple of ways that you can make valid arguments. This is an important aspect of philosophy because it's kind of how you present your ideas to people and how they can consider your ideas. If you present an argument, then people look at your argument and they can say that either the argument is invalid or that one of the premises of that argument isn't true. And that's kind of the two big ways that you can criticize an argument. So what I'm going to talk about today are ways that you can make a valid argument. An argument is valid when the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusion. And so an example of that is called Modus Ponens. And put in one way, it's if P, then Q. P, therefore Q. And what that means is P and Q are both propositions. So let me put it this way as an example. If I have $10, I will buy a pizza. I have $10. Therefore, I will buy a pizza. Now, this seems pretty simple, but it's important to just establish as an idea. Like this is pretty much your basic if-then statement. And you're affirming the positive here. You're taking if P, then Q. There's a first part of the statement, a second part. You're saying the first part's true. That means the second part's true. It's called modus ponens. Another thing then, the kind of flip side of that, and this is also a valid form of argument, is called modus tollens. And you start out with the same if-then statement, if P, then Q. And here what you do is you deny the antecedent, which means that you establish not Q, therefore not P. So here's the example that I have for this one to help provide a little bit of understanding there. If Bill Hicks is on Comedy Central, I will watch TV. I am not watching TV. Therefore, Bill Hicks is not on Comedy Central. And that is an example of modus tollens. So both of these are two ways of formulating a valid argument. Again, this is important in philosophy because an argument being valid means that the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusion. And so if your argument is valid, the only way it can be attacked is the truth of the premises themselves, which means that if somebody wants to say your argument's wrong, going to the Bill Hicks example or something like that, they'd have to say that, it's not true that Bill Hicks is on Comedy Central or something like that, or it's not true that you are not watching TV. They have to attack your premises individually. And so it's just as a way of formulating arguments. Any comments on that, guys?
The modus tollens?
Yep.
That doesn't necessarily need to be true, because if Bill Hicks is on Comedy Central, I will watch Comedy Central. If I'm not watching Comedy Central, Bill Hicks is not on Comedy Central. That's not necessarily true, because Bill Hicks could be on Comedy Central. Just because you're not watching it doesn't mean he's not on it.
Not necessarily, because that means that the if-then statement is not true. The argument's still valid, but one of the premises in your statement is untrue. The if-then statement is that if Bill Hicks is on Comedy Central, then I will watch TV. Right. That means that, like hell or high water, rain or snow, if that statement is true, then as long as Bill Hicks is on there, you have to be watching TV. So the argument is still valid. The example you're providing is an instance where one of the premises is no longer true.
But that's what you said, isn't it?
That's how we defined it.
That's the example you gave us.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay, so I'm understanding it right then, right?
You referred to the example that I referred to, but I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, Wally's point's making is that if Bill Hicks was on, you were going to be watching it. Like, this is a true thing, or
okay, so I don't have there is no choice in it. It's just it is just a fact.
Yes.
Like if I toss a ball up, it's coming down.
Yes. So
it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So if Bill Hicks is on, I am going to be watching. It's just going to happen.
Yes.
Yep. So like put another way would maybe be something like if it is raining out, there will be clouds. There are no clouds, therefore it is not raining out. Okay, that's another example of it. That is more concrete, I would say, actually.
That was a good example. No, I liked this week's Dangerous Philosophy. This was kind of a little more of a complicated one to try to wrap my head around. I think I got the idea of it though. I mean,
oh yeah, one quick more thing to toss in there. So if you're having a hard time remembering which one is Modus Ponens or which one is Modus Tollens,
okay, so hold on. Give us an example. Give it, please, just quickly, if you can. Okay. Give us Modus Ponens and give a quick example of that, and then give us Modus Tollens and give us a quick example of that again.
Like new examples or the same examples? No, you can do this,
the rain one again.
So Modus Ponens, which is like positive, ponens, positive, if P, then Q, P, therefore Q. And the example there was, if I have $10, I will buy a pizza. I have $10, therefore I will buy a pizza. Modus Tollens, which is just the other one. Like
Modus Tollens as in not tolerated.
Not tolerate. There you go. Leaves has got it here. So if P, therefore Q. It's not just Q.
Leaves. Just leaves, by the way.
Just leaves to you. Modus Tollens, which is not tolerating it. If P, therefore Q, not Q, which is the second thing, right? The outcome did not happen, therefore not P. So the thing preceding that outcome, we know didn't happen. And then the clearest example there was, if it is
cloudy,
raining, then it will be cloudy. It is not cloudy, therefore it is not raining. That was the best example of Modus not tolerating it. Thanks for listening to Dangerous Philosophy.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and I think with that, we're going to take a quick break. And Ninja, after the break, what do we got coming up?
All right, after the break, we're going to be talking about USOs. That's unidentified submerged objects, and we'll also be stopping in for 5 minutes with Just-Levi.
Just-Levi.
All right, and I got a statement for you. If it bothers Levi to be called Just Leaves, then I will call him Just Leaves. He is bothered by Just Leaves. So, we will have 5 minutes with Just Leaves.
Oh, yeah. You just got Modus pwned.
All right. Yeah. So, we'll see you guys after the break.
So bad. Oh, my God.
That was awesome.
No.
City water extreme, boy, you're feeling mean. It's got the meteorites. Extreme in my cup, oh, it's never enough. So I'll drink till I die. It's meteorites falling from the sky. It's so extreme, but make your throat bleed.
Nothing is harder than keeping a mosh pit going full speed. That's why I always keep City Water Extreme nearby. City Water Extreme! City Water Extreme is the most heavy metal beverage on the market. Seriously, there are actual heavy metals inside. I mean, it's practically toxic. You probably shouldn't drink more than 2 or 3 a day. Pregnant women definitely stay away. You could definitely give your baby birth defects like permanent metal fingers, like all the time. City Water Extreme! Taste the metal.
Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas that some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
Broadcasting from the land of 10,000 lakes, this is Red Herring Radio. Welcome back from the break, everybody. On the second half of the show, we'll be talking about USOs, that's unidentified submerged objects. We'll have a little segment, 5 minutes with Just-Levi. But first, we'll be putting the Red Herring spotlight on the late and great Bill Hicks. Dizzle?
Yes, Bill Hicks. I was first introduced to Bill Hicks from a good friend of mine. He is most well known as a stand-up comedian, and I more or less look at him more than just a stand-up comedian. I look at him as a philosopher who helped me personally maybe open my eyes a little more to different aspects, different, ways of looking at things, from what I was taught from institutions that brought me up. Not just my parents, but like public school and church and all that stuff. All right, so Bill Hicks, we're looking at the Wikipedia here for Bill Hicks, and William Melvin Bill Hicks was born December 16th, 1961. He started doing stand-up comedy at the Comedy Workshop in Houston, Texas when he was 16. During the 1980s, he toured the United States. In the UK, he amassed a significant fan base, it says here. He achieved a modicum of recognition as a guitarist and songwriter. Unfortunately, Bill Hicks died of pancreatic cancer on February 26, 1994 in Little Rock, Arkansas at the age of 32. So now, just briefly, we're going to take a look at some of the videos he has here on YouTube that we were able to find. And Bill Hicks has a very interesting style. He's very unapologetic when he is putting forth his opinions on things. He tells it how he how he feels, and he doesn't make any qualms about it. And he touches on things from religion to drugs to the government and everything in between that.
I'm getting that close to hell right now. It's getting a little warm. You know what, though? I find it ironic that people who are against things that cause sexual thoughts are generally fundamentalist Christians who also believe you should be fruitful and multiply. Isn't that weird? Don't you think they'd be for things that cause sexual thoughts? You know what I mean? Maybe even a centerfold in the Bible? I don't know. Miss Deuteronomy? Turn-offs, floods, locusts, and smokers? Turn-ons, myrrh? I don't know what myrrh is. Chicks dig it. Back to my room, baby. I got some myrrh.
So right there, Bill was talking about a little of what he thought was
hypocrisy.
Yeah, hypocritical about Christianity. And that's, he touches more on Christianity, but I would agree with him. That is one thing within that belief structure that is a bit hypocritical.
But just to defend Christians out there, like they may not believe everything that he's supposing that he are saying that they would believe. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just say, like, Christian belief is faulty because of the point that he's making or something like that.
Yeah, to be fair, though, I forget the exact argumentative term they use for this, but I know Christopher Hitchens has used this one. That's, you can't let the moderates let the fanatics go. So when you got, like, one group of people holding that one opinion, it's going to taint the whole thing because you can't say, oh, well, you have to respect the whole belief, yada, yada. Because just, a small group of people have that belief, it's going to affect the whole thing, if you know what I'm saying.
Isn't that just a fancy way of saying one sour apple, rotten apple in a bunch, wrecks them all?
Now we're going to take a look at what Bill Hicks thought about the first Iraq War.
And during we had this big war thing happen. I don't know if you caught any of that, but it was a very stressful time for me, the war. I'll tell you why. I was in the unenviable position of being for the war, but against the troops. And not the most popular stance I've ever taken on an issue, I must say. I don't choose wisely always, and yet I'm committed. So, first of all, this needs to be said. There never was a war. How can you say that, Bill? Well, a war is when two armies are fighting. So you see, right there, I think we can all agree it wasn't exactly a war. And Bush, President Bush, a complete surprise, he turned into a demon, man. When he was first president, they called him the wimp president. I mean, this was the cover of Newsweek. Wimp president. Apparently, this stuck in this guy's craw. The guy turned into a fucking demon, man. We surrender. Not good enough. We run away. Too little, too late.
All right, so there's a little bit of shining the spotlight on Bill Hicks' personality. He flat out calls one of the presidents of the United States a demon. I mean, you can't get more. I mean, that's not like calling him a fucking asshole, but it's...
Yeah, it's demons do that.
Yeah, is that supposed to imply that I am or something? But no, I mean, seriously, calling somebody a demon, that's a pretty harsh thing to call someone. You're calling them a being of pure evil in a sense. And just to touch on the point he made about how a war is a battle between two armies, well, that pretty much sums it up. We went over there and just wiped them completely out. It wasn't really a fight between two armies. It was us crushing them.
Yeah, his point about calling Bush a demon, he goes on, I think, a little later in that bit to make the point that the United States Army attacked with such force that the Iraqi forces suffered like 150,000 casualties. 150,000, and our casualties totaled 79. That's an odd, and I think one of his great jokes in there is like, so if we had sent 80 guys over there, would we still win?
Probably not.
Moving on here. Bill Hicks and his theories on evolution.
You know what I mean? I believe that God left certain drugs growing naturally upon our planet to help speed up and facilitate our evolution. Okay, not the most popular idea ever expressed. Either that or you're real high and agreeing with me in the only way you can right now. I forgot the code. Is it 2 blinks yes, 1 blink no? Do you think magic mushrooms growing atop cow shit was an accident? Where do you think the phrase, "that's good shit," came from? Why do you think Hindus think cows are holy? Holy shit. Why do I think McDonald's is the Antichrist? That's God's little accelerator pad for our evolution.
So that was Bill Hicks and evolution, and to tie that in with what he's saying about God and how he believes that the mushrooms were put here by God to speed up evolution, he ties in some of his beliefs, how some of the things that we keep illegal, such as marijuana and stuff, well, God created marijuana, and let's just take a listen.
Why is marijuana against the law? It grows naturally upon our planet. Doesn't the idea of making nature against the law seem to you a bit paranoid? You know what I mean? It's nature. How do you make nature against the fucking law? Grows everywhere, serves 1,000 different functions, all of them positive. To make marijuana against the law is like saying God made a mistake. You know what I mean? It's like God on the 7th day looked down at his creation. There it is, my creation, perfect and holy in all ways. Now I can rest. Oh my me. I left fucking pot everywhere.
All right. So, well, just to touch on is the last thing he talked about and the evolution, the human evolution tied to the mushrooms. I believe we've touched on that before with Terence McKenna and the stoned ape theory.
Yeah, it definitely ties into that.
And then to go back to what we just listened to when he was talking about how could you make, or why would you make something natural made by God for us, like marijuana, in his opinion, made for us by God? How could you make that illegal? How can you make nature illegal? And I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. Although there are plenty of things in nature that are bad for you. There are plenty of things in nature that are bad for you that are not illegal. And I think Bill Hicks, he was on the forefront of what is happening in this country now anyway. I mean, it's hard to dispute that the general consensus of what cannabis is and the idea behind cannabis and the view of cannabis in this country, the general view of it, is changing. And maybe that's just because the new generation is taking the reins of the power structure of this country. But you look at Washington, you look at Colorado, both recreational states. You look how many states have medical cannabis now, including our state here in Minnesota. We have medical cannabis. So the whole attitude towards cannabis is changing, and I think Bill Hicks was on the forefront of that.
Yeah, he was definitely voicing that opinion when it was dangerous, or at least risky for your career in the public eye to be voicing such opinions.
You got it, genius.
Next up here, we're going to be looking at what Bill Hicks and his views on pornography.
Pornog.
But we gotta have an enemy. Rock, drugs, we're so miserable. What's the enemy? Got it. Pornography. That's it. Yeah, tremor through the room. Problem with pornography basically is this. No one knows what it is. Other than that, we got a real good grasp on the situation. We know it's bad, we just can't figure out what the fuck it is. Supreme Court says pornography is any act that has no artistic merit and causes sexual thoughts. That's their definition. No artistic merit causes sexual thoughts. Sounds like almost every commercial on TV to me. You know, when I see those two twins on that Double Mint commercial, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this. I ain't thinking about gum.
All right. So he makes another good point there.
Yeah, those twins were pretty hot.
What's a commercial?
Right. Literally anything could be construed as pornography. You know, there are people out there who have all sorts of different fetishes.
As long as you make it artistic, basically you can perform any form of like public nudity and pretty much get away with a fine as long as you had some sort of like Crayola marker and some paper and you were talking about trying to make a pretty, collage. The marker and
totally.
paper is not
and I'm just going to throw this one out. I saw this on Reddit a few days ago. There's like a Dutch like living live art display of like a dude living in a box. Like that's what he does. He fucking stands in a box all day doing stuff and people can just stop by and like look at him for a while. And the picture that someone posted on Reddit was like him standing in a corner, and apparently earlier before him standing, because he looked like he was punishing himself, it looked like he took a piece of his own shit and smeared it on the wall, and he was just standing in the corner to punish himself. That's art.
All I gotta say, guys, is if you guys are ever talking to me and you're like, hey, what'd you do today? And I was like, yeah, I went and looked at a guy in a box. You have permission to end my life for me because I have no purpose to be living anymore. If I'm actually using my time to go look at a guy waste his time, then all hope for me is lost.
I will personally slit your throat in a humane and fast way.
That's messed up.
Oh, yeah. I'm more of like a deviant over time. I'll just let you. And even when you're about to die, man, I'll spend all the money I can just so you could stay alive longer and suffer more.
I think we'll just leave it there. And just to sum it up, Bill Hicks, he was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He lived his life like he wanted to. He was a smoker, and he knew what kind of effect that would have on him, and he died of cancer. But he changed the world in a very drastic way in a short time he was here. He made us think about things in a way that made us face certain realities that a lot of people don't want to face.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because it's just a ride.
All right, so from that, we're going to go into something a little more out there, if you will. And we're going to start discussing some things called USOs. Now, most people know what UFOs are. We talked about those on Red Herring Radio before. UFO is unidentified flying object, often connected with aliens. That's not always, the case. You can't just say that an unidentified flying object is aliens, because it's just unidentified. It could be a weather balloon. It could be one of a million things. It's just unidentified. Now, USOs are unidentified submersible objects. These are often seen
by water.
Yes, by water,
that
in
makes
water.
Sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They need water to be submerged. Quite often, UFOs become USOs because they're seen.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa, absolutely. Because they're either seeing flying in the air and then diving into the water, or, like Danger said, vice versa. Now we're going to just take a look at a couple websites here that have some cases and some information on USOs. Just to kick it off here, talking about USOs, we're on ufoevidence.org, and we're going to turn it over to Danger.
All right, this story takes place June 30th, 1967. We're on board the Argentinian ship Navarro. They saw a cylindrical-shaped object in the sea. It emitted a light that was blue and white, 33 meters long, but the most surprising thing about what they saw was that there was no noise coming from the object. It was moving pretty quickly through the water, no waves either. So whatever they saw was traveling in a way that it wasn't affecting the water or making noise. Very weird. So it was kind of moving along course with their ship when all of a sudden it accelerated, dived, and disappeared in the deep sea.
Now that's like really amazing for it to not make any waves, because the waves of a submersible moving would be from displacement. So if the ship was not creating displacement, that would be like quite a... Maybe
they were seeing some kind of effect happening from a ship traveling through water in a... how we've talked before, apparently some of the alien races we talked about before, they were in a dimension, shifted just like a second out of ours, Yeah. Maybe that's what these ships are, and that's why it wouldn't displace the water.
Interesting theory.
Today I learned that aliens have shadow. Quick Magic the Gathering joke for all you nerds.
Moving down this page a little bit, we have another story here. On July 26, 1980, the sailors on board the ship Cioba Seahorse. Chaoba Seahorse.
We don't know how to say this word.
I'm pretty sure none of us can say this word. So, yeah.
Okay, so the Kiowa Seahorse.
That was a good attempt at that word. Better than mine.
We're not sure how to say that word.
No.
So the people on this ship saw a gray round object. This time it was about 10 meters, and it was drifting in the water. At the same time, bright lights appeared on the horizon, approached the ship, everything stopped working, and all of a sudden the gray object in the sea became illuminated with green, red, blue, and yellow lights. So their ship all of a sudden shut off, their ship turned on. This light, super bright, then sank down, and they connected, and like one of the alien or the USOs kind of like docked with the other one. And then both of them floated into the sky and sped up into the sky and disappeared. Holy crap, could you believe something like that would happen?
You sound so enthusiastic when you're telling the tale, my friend. Now, I think it's important to note that USOs are not just associated with the ocean or seawater. They're also...
Did you say city water? Seawater.
Yeah, but they're also have been seen in lakes. And if we go down the paragraph here a little bit, on April 30th, 1976.
That's right. It was on this date that an unidentified object broke with great power, trough the ice.
I think that's...
Okay, please start the paragraph.
But it does say trough.
Okay.
No, it's
That's fine. Okay, so please start that.
I think you can take the...
I did it on purpose. I know.
That was funny, though.
Man.
That was funny.
That's right.
Anything you put up there, he will read.
That's right. It was on this date, April 30th, 1976, that an unidentified object broke through the ice in a lake in Sweden. This ice was over 1.5 feet thick. I'm not very good. It's listed in centimeters here. I'm going to assume it's 1.5 feet. Anyways, the witnesses report a gray object.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're not going to do any research to find out how thick.
Why don't you just say it's 20 centimeters?
20 centimeters.
It says it's 20 centimeters. I'd rather...
We're not submitting to the metric system. And at Red Herring Radio, we do not submit to the metric system and the whims of the rest of the world.
Even though the scientific
community... It is a 1.5 feet.
Yes, here in America, the free America, we're sticking with the imperial measurements.
Except for the American scientific community.
Yeah. How much can a gourd hold?
Like about 1.5 feet worth of liquid, man.
Yeah, well,
how many centimeters can you fit in a gourd?
A furlong.
See, there's no good number for the number of centimeters that fits in a gourd.
Yeah, I think I think we really got off track here. But no, so essentially USOs, it's the same mystery here that we're dealing with when we're talking about UFOs.
I still don't get it. Why would they have to be called USOs and UFOs? Granted, they're underwater. We get it. They're underwater. But apparently most of them just fly off into the sky anyway. So why can't we just be like, oh, it was a UFO that was hiding underwater for a bit?
I figure it's the same reason that when magma hits the surface, it becomes lava.
That's a good point right there. But also consider this. Most USOs are UFOs, but not all UFOs are USOs. And that's some philosophy right there. Dangerous.
Well, that's an important distinction for the people who would like to scientifically analyze the reports of unidentified objects. Statistically, that's the kind of stuff that some anal, studious nerd would want to know, is the percentage of how many UFOs were also spotted moving freely between water and atmosphere or space.
No way to know, but yeah, that'd be cool to know. I think they're probably using the plankton as a harvesting of energy and the mechanism therein.
And that's why we're losing all of our oxygen.
Don't be ridiculous.
Right, so I just recommend people check out this topic of USOs. There's not really a whole lot. I mean, it's not as big as the UFO topic, but I mean, even if 1% of all the, even if 0.5% of all the sightings is legitimate, then you still have a good portion of sightings that you can't explain. So it's something that people should look at with a little more
scrutiny.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Thank you, Dan.
The most amazing thing is that it all happens on a ship, and there's quite a bit of people on a ship that all can relate the same experience. I find it hard to believe that they all just got together and was like, oh, we're just going to start this big conspiracy up. We'll be famous for it. But
no, they saw something out there.
Several different times this has taken place, and it's groups of people who are seeing it.
Well, we will have several links for you in the description below with information dealing with this topic and cases, firsthand accounts talking about this topic. So if you want, check that information out and leave us a comment on this video, letting us know what you think. And from there, we are going to move into our final little segment of the night. We left a little time here at the end of the show for our special guest and his crazy machinations. So I think I'm going to hand it over for 5 minutes with
Just-Levi. So check it out.
Derp, derpity derp 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 derp.
I've been doing a little bit of sleuthing just recently here. I've had a little bit of free time between my book writings. I've been checking out this Craigslist thing, and it's been really freaking me out. Everyone's been trading everything. It's anyone can get anywhere from anybody. Yeah, you heard it. That can happen. Right on the internet. Sad though. So many people, anybody, how could you trust these people? I was talking to some close friends and we're just discussing with them. They would mention to me that they were concerned about being robbed while trying to perform transactions on Craigslist. I'd say, well, how could we avoid being robbed in the first place? The one idea shot through the head, which was to be in a area which is videotaped or recordings. Now, this can help catch, but it will not help prevent. All it's going to do is circulate a video on the internet of you getting your ass robbed or stabbed or something stupid happened to you, and you screaming on the ground while someone's beating you up. Now, the next idea would be to know full and well that this person is either going to rob or murder you right off the bat. So you should go full head on in with every intentions to murder your murderer. And just keep everything gun-ho. And it'd be a smart idea to do it at Walmart, too, because they got a lot of good things to help murder murderers. It's all one little spot. You can do your trades there. Cameras, too. Man, they're all there. All there. But then, now you're killing somebody. And we don't want to kill anybody, at least not yet, unprovoked. They haven't done anything yet. So maybe if we just brought a big group of people with us, right? Or maybe just like some friends off on the side, and we take these friends with us, and when our friends are traveling with us, and we're going to go make this deal happen, but how do I trust that as soon as I get this little object that my friends aren't going to take it from me? Or if I, get this thing from this guy that I don't know, who could be a complete weirdo who's trying to kill me, and I bring my friends with it, and I finally make it through this ordeal, or barely survive this, man, then I wouldn't just be easily plucked off and my friends kill me. I take that too. I don't think that would have happened, but I don't know. I can't trust them. It came off bad. I would hate to say that I'd want to do a Rick type 2 take, but
you can do
Calculon doesn't take 2 takes.
I think you're good. All right, guys. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us here on Red Herring Radio. We had a fun time tonight. Join us again in 2 weeks, and we will be back in 2 weeks.
Or 3.
2? No, it's going to be 2 weeks.
Committing to 2?
I initially wanted to do it every other week, and then just things come up. But no, it will be 2 weeks. We'll be back with another episode of Red Herring Radio. So, for Wally, Danger, Walberg, the Ninja, the Natrix, and our special guest,
Just-Levi,
this is your host, B-Dizzle. We'll catch you next time on Red Herring Radio.
Look, everyone, Wally just wants to live in a land where gays can get married and have guns to protect their pot plants. Is that so bad? I stole your thunder, Wally.